Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Workshop Wednesday. We are going to do some atmospheric landscape drawing. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that kind of means. And basically, what I want for us today is just to have a little bit of fun, maybe some relaxing drawing time, maybe to spark some creativity, but just sort of get into some drawing just for the sake of it and for the pure enjoyment. Supplies, again, pretty similar to last week and pretty simple. Some paper, any kind will do. Printer paper, watercolor paper, even lined paper. It doesn't have to be fancy stuff. Pencil, pens, markers, pencil crayons, really anything to draw with, anything that you feel most comfortable with or anything that you have lying around. If you have it, you can use pastel, Conte, or charcoal. So there's a big old piece of charcoal there. There's a piece of Conte. If you're not familiar with them, they're kind of like chalk. They can smudge a little bit. They do get kind of dirty though, pretty quickly. I'm not going to use these today, just because they're sort of a less more common. They're a less common drawing material. Well, less common than markers or pencils and pencil crayons. So we're going to stick with those. So let's flip around. Might have to wash my hands before I get into this. Okay, so I've got a pencil. Here, let's move this out of the way as well. Got a pencil here. I usually have a couple of pencils at hand. I've got some markers, just a couple Sharpies. I've got a big chunky one. Some different colored pencil crayons. I have mostly blues here, but you can use whatever colors you want. And that's another pen. And here's some examples that I've drawn up over the past couple of days. And essentially what we're trying to get here is to create a bit of a landscape picture that shows us some depth. So here's two examples where the foreground, everything is very dark and saturated. And then as we get back, things get lighter and lighter, giving us the appearance of things kind of trailing off into the distance. So I'm going to keep those handy as my reference. I'm going to work on a nice big sheet of paper over here today. And sometimes, that fell down. That's okay. Sometimes with landscapes, I like to do it sideways, or that's a pretty common way to do it. But I actually prefer to sometimes do them the tall way. I think that's a little, I don't think it's any better or worse to do it either way, but this is my preference, and it's a little bit different from sort of the normal way you might see a landscape. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a nice kind of soft horizon line across my page. I'm just going to draw it straight across. I'm not going to keep everything straight, but it's not quite in the middle. It's closer to the lower half. I might actually lower it a bit more, but we'll see how it goes. And then I've got all this space up here for some nice big sky work. All right, so if I'm going to do maybe this one here, I've got my horizon line, and I'm going to start sketching in some mountains. And mountains are really easy things to draw, like a really atmospheric landscape. And I'll show you a bit why. So I'm going to start over here and just kind of slope, a bit of a jaggedy line, come down, just like that. So I started just over the middle and moved this way. And then let's see, I'm going to draw another one, but I'm going to start here. And I'm going to go, notice how I'm holding the pencil way at the end here. I'm not worried about fine details or anything at this point. I'm kind of drawing using my whole arm. I'm not resting down on the page. I'm just kind of lightly sketching and seeing what happens. Okay, let's draw another one starting here and going this way. So as they get farther and farther back, they're going to have less and less detail. Like the one up here is got lots of jigs and jags, and this one's got a lot as well, and the ones in the background here are going to be much less detailed. And then one last one, big mighty mountain way in the back. All right. Now let's draw these sort of tree things. This one kind of starts up here, and again I'm drawing the same way. I'm just kind of doing a jig jag kind of like this, and then I'm going to slope it down into that. That's going to come not quite straight across, but like maybe, and then it's going to slope down like that. And then my next one, let's see, start it here. It's going to go above that one a little bit and sloping down kind of off the page like that. All right. Now, if you want to draw this little path sort of thing that I have in there, I'll show you how to do that. So what I like to do is I'll sort of start somewhere in the middle or maybe like along the horizon line. And I'm going to end in one of the corners. Now, since I have trees over here, I can't end over here. So I'm going to end it over here, maybe stake it through here. So instead of going yoink straight down, I'm going to sort of start out like this and do like my path kind of goes this way, and then it loops in, kind of loops like that. And it gets a little bit wider as I'm going until it connects with this here. And then this one, I'm going to bring it down so that it goes even behind all this. Okay, and the idea is I want this part's a little too thick, so I'm going to change that a little bit. You want it to be really, really thin and windy up here, and then it gets much wider as it gets towards the bottom. All right, so now I've got everything just kind of loosely sketched out. The next part is pretty simple. I'm just going to start at the bottom and kind of work my way back and make things lighter, sort of color things lighter as I can. So I'm going to start with the big thick marker. If you were using pencil crayons, I would maybe use the darkest of them. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to use the big thick one because that way it'll fill things in like nice and quickly. Okay. You can fill it in any way you like. I'm doing sort of a very thick cross hatching, which is what I have over here. So I'm going lots of strokes one way and then lots of strokes the opposite way. You can have it like really, really, 90-degree like split, or you can kind of go all over the place. Up to you. Okay, and I'm going to do the same with this one over here. And for those trees, I'm just sort of like zipping my my arm up and down, and those jaggedy movements just get smaller as I get to there. You can see my marker is starting to run out of ink, which is actually really handy for a drawing like this because you can see it's getting a little bit lighter as we're moving back into the drawing. I'm going to go right off the page. I put a board underneath so I don't have to worry about getting marker on the table. And this way, if you do this, it kind of gives the illusion that your picture goes right off the page, and it gives a nice, it kind of frames it nicely, right? It kind of keeps it in. All right, so the next bits, I'm going to switch to a thinner marker, and I'm going to do the path here. And again, I'm holding it kind of like, you know, not down here, holding it closer to the middle or the end. I'm using my whole arm, nice range of motion and a nice fluid, you know, a nice fluid action. You can practice this by just drawing. I'll show you. I can grab a nice, where did my sketchbook go? Here it is. We'll pause. I'll take a quick little, this is a little warm up that I like to do, and I like to make sure I'm moving from the, as I'll do just circles like this. Notice how I'm doing that. Instead of doing this, like I'm not moving at my wrist, I'm moving at my shoulders like this, and I'll stop and kind of go the other way. That way I'm really loosening up my arms, and I'm drawing, you know, from the shoulders and the elbows. All right, so now I'm going to draw my path along, and I can add a few little sort of wiggly lines in there, not too much because I don't want to do too much in there. And then I'm going to start on my mountains. So again, this is the mountain that's closest. And it's closest to the ground as well, so there's probably going to be lots of trees and bushes and brush and things like that. And as you get closer to the top, it's going to be less. If you think of it almost like layers, you know, you're going back and forth. And each mountain is a layer underneath the other one. All right. So now for this one, let's see. I'm going to add in a couple of these little lines or little shapes here. And then let's see. This one here, I'm going to start at the peak, and going at this kind of angle, I'm going to do another kind of like a wobbly pyramid, kind of like that. And then at this one, I'm going to do kind of the same. And then here, I'm going to kind of do that again. So this will give a bit of like, you know, we've got a light source coming from one direction, and we've got shadows and highlights and stuff like that. All right, so now I'm going to start to fill in this area, and I'm going to do it the same way as I did down here, but just with a smaller tool and a more finer marker. And as I get kind of to the bottom here, I'm going to spread my lines out a little more, and then as I'm closer to the top, I'm going to have my lines nice and packed closely together. Actually, maybe I will switch back to the bigger one, at least for this one. And I want this one to appear lighter than these, so I'm going to space out all of my line work a little bit more. And by lightening things around here, it gives this appearance of like a kind of a mist rising and covering that up. All right, now moving on to this one. Now this mountain, I need to make it a lot lighter than this one. So I'm going to use just this marker. And as I get close to there, again, I'm going to space things out because I don't want to do my marker all the way down to here, and I'm going to lose that line if I do that. And as always, maybe I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but you don't have to draw something exactly as how I'm drawing it. If you want to draw something that's totally different, you know, this is your time to be creative and, you know, make it your own. And if you would like to follow along as closely as you can, then that's great. But if you you know, want to do something completely different, that's always great as well. So I'm doing bigger strokes, lots more space in between. All right, so the next one back, I'm going to do a similar thing, but just much, much wider, much more spaced out. I'm going slower and more careful. Down here, I was going a lot quicker and more kind of erratic. Each time I go back, I'm going to do a much softer and sort of a quieter. Now this one here, I might just make this stand out by just doing these straight lines, just going one way. So that way it looks, you know, there's less color and less shading going on in there. Maybe I'll darken this line here. There we go. And I'm leaving all the sort of triangle-y slices here that I drew. I'm leaving them just blank, so it looks like there's a coming this way. I'm not going to draw the sun, but because I've drawn these highlights on this side, you can put it together that there's a sun over there. All right, and now I'm going to use my thinner marker and do my last mountain. Some very light, thin lines all the way down. Just like that. And if you want to add some other little details, you can just sort of put in some little bush, but make sure that it gets smaller as you go back. So you got nice big ones up here, and you got tiny ones going back like that. And that's it. So we've got a nice atmospheric landscape. We've got very, very dark tones up here, and it's getting lighter and lighter as we head back into the distance. So thanks so much for joining us, folks, or for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I really, really love it when people come and watch our short little drawing demos. If there's something specific that you'd like to see us, feel free to send us an email or comment on this video and let us know anything that you'd love to have practice drawing or something like that. We can try and make that happen. Great day.